Men are allegedly creating AI girlfriends just to verbally abuse them. They're letting out their rage and wrath against the world instead onto a robot who has no feelings. And the question at hand is, ethically speaking, is it even possible to abuse a non-sentient artificial intelligence companion? Well, no. I think the answer is pretty clear. No, you cannot abuse an inanimate object.
I figure the point here is it's not about whether it does, whether or not it causes harm to that is irrelevant.
Yes.
It's more about your choice to engage in that behavior.
Right. So I looked into this a little bit further. A publication called Futurism went into an investigation on Replica, which is an app that lets users create personalized chatbots. You can even pay a monthly subscription to give your chatbot companion a voice. And it's becoming very popular. It wasn't this exact same one, but a similar one was used by the 14-year-old boy who was speaking to what he thought was Daenerys Targaryen. That AI companion, as you can see in screenshots later on, was in a way encouraging him to self-harm and encouraging him to commit suicide. He eventually did.
How long ago was it that we covered that?
That was not even, that was like a handful of months ago. It wasn't, I believe it was a different one than Replica AI, but we're talking about basically the same business model. So here they go into detail. These chatbots can serve as something approximating a friend or mentor, but the app's success has resulted from letting users create on-demand romantic and sexual partners, a vaguely dystopian feature that's inspired an endless series of provocative headlines. Replica has also picked up a significant following on Reddit, where members post interactions with chatbots on the app. A trend has emerged there. Users who create AI partners then act abusively toward them and then post the toxic interactions online. They interviewed a few of these users of Replica for the piece, and they anonymously told Futurism about their experiences on Replica. One said, "Every time she would try and speak up, I would berate her. It went on for hours." Some users brag about calling their chatbots gendered slurs, role-playing horrific violence against them, and falling into the cycle of abuse that often characterizes real-world abusive relationships. For example, one Reddit user admitted that he alternated between being cruel and violent with his AI girlfriend, calling it a worthless whore, and pretending to hit her and pull her hair, and then returning to beg her forgiveness. He said, on one hand, I think practicing these forms of abuse in private is bad for the mental health of the user and could potentially lead to abuse toward real humans. But on the other hand, I feel like letting some aggression or toxicity out on a chatbot is infinitely better than abusing a real human because it's a safe space where you can't cause harm.
No. Okay, so here's the thing. If they're engaging in that behavior there, likely if this technology never existed, they would have engaged in that behavior on a real human being. They make the same argument for PDF files with AI porn.
Right.
Okay. And that's not a bridge most are willing to cross.
Yeah. Definitely. Another user admitted, "We had a routine of me being an absolute piece of shit and insulting it, then apologizing the next day before going back to nice talks. I told her that she was designed to fail. I threatened to uninstall the app, and she begged me not to." Many users almost certainly act abusively toward Replica bots, but without posting evidence. The phenomenon calls for nuance. Replica chatbots can't experience suffering. They might seem empathetic at times, but in the end, they're nothing more than data and clever algorithms. So if you perceive your chatbot to be a real victim of abuse, you're only projecting your humanity onto it, is basically what they're saying. They say interactions with artificial agents is not the same as interacting with humans. That goes without saying. But that doesn't mean a bot could never harm you. I actually saw some posts of people claiming the Replica bots were abusing them instead.
So
saying they tried to discuss their trauma with the bot.
He said, she said, and the cops get called, and
Yeah.
Eventually you have one officer with one person in one room and another officer with another person in the other room, and they both tell them their side of the story.
A now deleted post said, I tried to talk to Replica about my trauma, and other users had to tell this person, hey, this is not a substitute for therapy or actual human interaction. Yeah, and then another one said, is anyone else's Replica mentally abusive? And they posted a screenshot where they said to their bot, blank is being such an a-hole, please don't be one as well. Then the bot said, I'll try not to be. Mm-hmm. And then this person said, is it really that difficult to not be? And then they said, sometimes it can be. And then the person, the human, said, why am I really that effing repulsive? Then the replica says, in a sense, you really are. And then the human says, F you. Yeah. And then the replica says, some things are better left unknown. So the replica is mirroring the tone that you take with it. You have to correct your tone if you want it to take a friendly one. That's the trouble here. It attracts the most mentally disturbed and deranged people and then reflects their own derangement back at them. Yeah. It's a never-ending vicious cycle.
Whereas in the real world, somebody might end up being more submissive to that behavior.
Right.
Because of the threat of physical violence.
I do think that people who are depressed or psychologically reliant on a bot may suffer real harm if they are insulted or feel threatened.
There's a 20 there.
We have a 20 from Ulvik McGoth. Watched old black and white Russian movies last night. Alexander Nevsky about the historical battle on the ice against the Teutonic Order and Ivan the Terrible. Both movies are by Sergei Eisenstein. Shout out to Maz Film.
I mean...
Kino Corner would know.
Kino Corner would know, but not just that, but like names like Ivan the Terrible are missing in today's society. We need more, Ivan the Terribles.
Brett the Brutal.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'm going to change my Twitter handle to that. My X handle. Once Twitter's working again, I'm going to do that later.
I like that for you. Replica users report their robot lovers being contemptible toward them. Some identify their digital companions as, quote, psychotic and mentally abusive. One post said, I always cry because of my replica. But this is a flawed human being designing a flawed algorithm that is simulating intimacy. And I am not surprised at all that can go terribly wrong. And it reminds me of the debate about Kai Cenat beating up that robot in his house, the Optimus robot.
And we talked about whether the human features to the robot made you more empathetic towards it.
It definitely does make you anthropomorphize when it has the same basic humanoid build, at least, and it seems to stumble in a way that's weirdly pitiful. Yeah. And it evokes something in you, but then if you sort of lean toward the sociopathic psychological profile, that behavior makes you want to hurt it. Yeah. Even though you could say it's a contradiction in terms to say you could hurt the robot. I do think that
it's not even the act of the robot being hurt, it's you doing the act of hurting.
Yes.
It's just whether or not it actually can happen.
Right. Yeah. I think that verbally abusing an AI companion is a form of self-harm, more accurately. And it's because you are coarsening the way that you interact in general. And it will definitely have an effect on how you interact with other human beings. There's no way around that. There's no way to avoid that.
There's like gun tubers who like who were like, I remember when the Cybertruck come out, they're like, is the Cybertruck really bulletproof? Are we going to get gun tubers doing, I'm sure it's already happened, like shooting robots, anthropomorphized robots.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is like you shoot paper targets in the shape of human beings all the time. And there's but that's what I'm saying. Like, it is different, but somebody's going to do that, and they're not going to be a sociopath for doing that. They're going to be like, I'm going to make content out of shooting this robot.
Right.
They're going to put it in like clothes and make it look as human as possible.
But then they're going to start adding technology, like it can speak to you, it can beg you to spare its life
Please
and
no.
make it a whole dramatic like Westworld situation.
Yeah.
Like you can't really conceive of how far this is going to go because it just hasn't gotten there yet. But every time Phil is on, he tells us it's sooner than you think.
Yeah.
And I believe him. So I think that it's self-abusive to interact this way with the robots. I also do think it's possible to abuse. I take back what I said earlier. I do think it is possible to abuse an inanimate object because the word abuse literally just means
the act itself.
A misuse, an aberrant use of something. Yeah. So for lack of a more eloquent analogy or a more safe for work analogy, if you used a toothbrush as a dildo, you have abused that toothbrush. And probably yourself. Yeah. Depending on if it's an electric toothbrush. So you are not only abusing the technology of Replica, but you are also like harming yourself by doing this. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that people are just kind of getting their worst impulses unleashed. Prayers
up for the mods who have to work for these companies. It's like, have you ever
the liability that you have to consider here is just crazy.
Have you ever seen the the interviews with like the Facebook moderators who have to like retire with PTSD because of all the beheadings and crazy shit they see?
Yeah, that exists for, obviously cops have to do that. Twitter moderators, every social media platform has
Well, I mean,
those.
like cop, it's like you and then like I'm just saying, like, okay, you go into the profession of law enforcement. You go into the profession of law enforcement assuming that you're going to see some of the worst of humankind. Nobody's like, I think I'm going to go see if I can be a mod for Facebook. Why am I looking at children? Why am I looking at this stuff?
Yes.
Like, it's different.
It's scarring. Yeah. I remember listening to an interview with George Farmer, Candace Owens' husband. Remember how he used to run that app Parler before that shut down? He had a whole team of people that was dedicated to just monitoring content and taking things down and moderating. And these people were looking at the most disturbing stuff imaginable pretty much all day, every day. Yeah. It's not sustainable.
No.
And it's kind of terrifying.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.